Hey there friends, what's going on? So in this video, I want to explain the caged chord system here. I made this PDF for you. It's a visual diagram. I'm going to talk about it a lot in this lesson. If you support me on Patreon, you already got this in your inbox. So check that out. And if you're interested in getting this, just head on over to my website, playsongnotes.com. It's a great visual diagram to accompany what I'm going to teach you in this video. But let's talk and look at the fretboard, because that's really what this is about. This is about a repeating pattern that happens on the fretboard, no matter what key you're playing in. It's the same pattern that repeats. And within that pattern, there's these different chord positions which repeat in the same order every time. It's true that your starting point will change based on what key you're in. But once you learn this pattern and you sort of memorize the way it repeats, which is pretty straightforward to do, especially if you have this visual diagram I made, it's gonna open up so many doors for you. It's gonna make the world seem a lot smaller in a really good way as far as demystifying this guitar, okay? The quick way to demonstrate this is if you look at, I have the Fret Monster here, which is my web tool that sort of helps you visualize the fretboard. If you just move through the keys, what you're gonna notice is that there's basically all those dots on the fretboard, those represent the notes in the major scale. Right? We can change the key we're in, right? From D sharp to E to F to G. But those numbers, they represent the intervals, right? The major scale has 7 different intervals or degrees, and they repeat in both directions. I have a whole separate lesson on the 12 notes and sort of how they repeat, right? And there's 7 different notes in every major key, and they repeat. So it almost is like when you look at it this way, those notes repeat. And you learn that, again, it doesn't matter which key you're in. It's the same pattern. You can sort of see the pattern moving to the right as I do this. And that's really the cool part here, is every 12 frets things repeat. This is true no matter what key you're in. And once you realize this, it opens up the doors for good stuff. So let's go to the key of C real quick, and let's talk about what makes a major chord. Well, it's the 1, the 3, and the 5 of that key. So in the key of C, you're going to learn your first C major chord is going to be this one. You're going to play these notes. You're going to push down these notes, right? This is the 3rd fret, 5th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string, and obviously this 1st fret on the 2nd string. You're also going to leave these two open, these two notes right here open on the 1st and 3rd string. So if I played a C major chord, an open C major chord, those are the notes I'm playing. Again, it's the 1, the 3, and the 5. That's what makes up the major chord for whatever key you're in. But here's the deal. You also could play these 1, 3, and 5, okay? And you might have seen this in some songs you're playing. You see 3, 5, 5, 5. Okay, that's also a C major chord. This is a different shape than this, but it's still a C major chord. Okay, let's keep this train rolling for a second because you're going to see some themes start to develop. So let's keep these notes highlighted that I had here, like my triple figure 8. If you also notice, oh, we have a 3 and a 1 right here. And we have this 1 right here. Now, to play this chord is actually tricky. You would be 8th fret, 7th fret, 5th, 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 and this 8th fret again on the thinnest E string. And you're saying, well, hey, these 3 notes right here, those are actually the same 3 notes I'm using here. But, you know, again, so it's almost like these shapes are sort of interrelated, and they are. It's one of the big cool things about this, is everything connects. Okay? And if you look at this, do you notice that this looks like any other chord you've played? If you capo the 5th fret, right? And I don't have to push these down anymore because I'm capoing right there. I can just play a G shape, like a G major chord, right? So this is a G shape, but this, what I just played, is a C major because it's playing those notes. The 1, the 3, the 5. In the key of C. And one more, or actually 2 more, just to complete the whole story here, we can do this same 8th fret I was playing, and look at this one. We have a 1 and a 5 right here, we have a 3 over here, and we have another 1 and a 5 up here. Does this look like anything you might recognize before? Well, it kind of looks like that F-shaped chord, right? Or you could say it looks like an E shape, and this is one of the things I learned with CAGED, is like, how do you name these shapes? Is this an E, is it an F? But in either case, 8, 10, 10, 9, 8, 8. This is also a C major, okay? It's playing the 1, the 3, the 5 in the C major scale. It makes it a C major chord. Now the shape is different than this shape, and it's different than this shape, and it's different than this shape, but they're all C majors. And there's one more shape. It's gonna be up here, and hang with me, because if you're feeling like this is crazy and opening things up too much, I've actually, this is it. This is the only other shape that's left. And no matter what key you're in, these are the same 5 shapes. And that's the brilliance of this, okay? So this last one is 10th fret, 12th, 13th, 12th, okay? Again, this one is really hard to play. And if we capoed the 10th fret, so I could just worry about this little triangle down here with the open 4th string, this is what it looks like a D major shape, right? But it's playing a C major chord. So that is the idea of caged, is that what the CAGED stand for is these shapes, okay? This is the C shape. This is what we're going to call the A shape. And why do we call it the A shape? Well, check this out. Right here. If you're playing an A major chord, you're pushing down these 3 notes, okay? If you move that same shape up here, and in the key of C, it happens to be on the 5th fret, okay? That makes a C major chord, but it's using what we're calling the A shape. And you can play the A shape down here for an A, you can play it here for a B flat, you can play it here for a B, you can play it here for a C, you can play it here for a C sharp, here for a D. One shape can move all over the place, and all of these shapes can do that. And the cool thing about this is no matter what key you're in, these chord shapes appear in this order all the time, okay? So let's get back to the key of C. We had this C shape up here, okay? And that connects to the A shape, and that connects to the G shape, and that connects to the E shape, and that connects to the D shape. Now you might be thinking, hey, do I have to memorize this for the key of C, and then is it different for every other key? No, my whole point is this stays the same no matter what key you're in. The order of these shapes is going to stay the same. Okay, so that's the main idea of CAGED, is that you have these different chord shapes that repeat. And let's give you a few practical examples here. And I think the number one takeaway I would have is, like, how do you use this? Is it's giving names to the chord shapes. And a specific example is, I know this is an E, I know this is an F, okay? But I never would know what to call this shape if you move it up. For example, do you call it the F shape, or do you call it the E shape? Similar, I know this is an A, I know this is a B flat, I know this is a B, but what do you call this shape, right? You call it a B flat shape because this is the lowest place you can play it. Or do you call it a B because B is nicer sounding than B flat? Or do you call it an A shape? I didn't know this until a week or two ago. And similar with this one, this C. I know this is a C, I know this is a D, but what if I want to sort of bar those and do this, right? What is the name of this shape? Man, I didn't know. Is it a D shape because it has that triangle, or is it a C shape, right? Here's what I'm going to teach you with CAGED. This is a number one, a really high up there practical thing to keep in mind. The names of these shapes are based on where you put your fingers down when you're playing the open chords. When I say the open chords, I literally mean the 5 open chords that make up the term CAGED. We have our C shape, and it's defined by these 3 fingers I'm putting down, okay? This is the root note, okay? We have our A shape. It's defined by these 3 fingers in a row, okay? And our root note is going to be on the string, sort of the 5th string, okay? Which after that is the G shape. This one's sort of hard to mistake, right? And this is also one you very rarely, like / never slide up the fretboard. Like you never really are doing. That's the same shape, just slid up. So this is a G shape. Let's move on to the E shape though. This is one where I was like, well, is it the F shape or the E shape? But again, the open chord is E major. Okay, what do you push down for E major? You push down these 3 fingers. So if you're playing B up on the 7th, 9th, and 8th fret, we're gonna call this an E shape chord, okay? Because we have these 3 notes and this root note, right, on the fret closer to the nut of the guitar, which make it an E shape. And then finally we have the D shape. Now the D shape is this triangle, but our root note is going to be the open 4th string, or not, I don't want to say the open 4th string. It's going to be the 4th string, which is 2 frets above this note. Okay, So if we were to move this up here to the 7th, 8th, and 7th, you know, I've always sort of memorized that to G, sort of G triad. If I wanted to play this sort of in the D shape fully, I would have to push down this 5th fret on the 4th string. It's hard. And I would never do this in theory, but here's the idea, is that we're going to call this a D shape because it has this triangle with this root note. Okay, so the cool part is, you see my diagram here, you're going to see how all these shapes relate to each other, and then the order that they follow. They always follow this order no matter what you're doing. Let's look at a totally different key. Just for example, say we look at the key of G. So I'm going to change Fret Monster to show me the key of G. I'm going to turn on triads here. This helps you visualize things. So right away you're going to see this. Now what is this name, the name of this shape, if we do these three with this root note? This is a G shape because it's the open G chord, okay? So that's good. Now, what's the next one? What comes after G? Caged, caged. After G is the E, okay? That's gonna be this shape chord right here. Again, with this root note right here, okay? And you see this E in it. This is 3rd, 5th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 3rd. This is a G major chord, but using the E shape, okay? And we could repeat it again. And we could go to this one right here. And again, this is a weird one. Like, we would never actually practically play. I don't think play it like I tried to before. But 7, 8, 7 up here, 7th and 8th fret. This is the D shape of the G chord. Okay, and what's after D? Let's see, CAGED, and then it starts over again. C. Okay, and you can sort of see this shape right here. So if we were to go 10th fret, I'm playing the 5th, 4th, and 2nd string with a C shape. This is technically, these are notes in the G major chord, okay? Now, technically, if we wanted to play it fully, we'd have to bar on the 7th fret, and we'd have to do this. I'd have to really think about it, and a lot trickier to do. Again, I would never actually do this, but you could take parts of this chord. You could take the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. So this is coming from the C shape, but it's playing a G major. This is an inverted chord, meaning our bass note is not a G in this case. We would need to get this 5th string down here. But this is a G major chord right here, using the C shape. And then the last shape is this, in this example, after C is A. So this is the root, and then, so 10, 12, 12, 12, okay? This is an A-shaped chord. So I showed you the key of G there, and the important part there is that starts with a different, you know, our open chord is G, but it follows the same pattern, okay? And again, that's the important thing to keep in mind is the starting points change, but the pattern, the order of the pattern, the positions, the shapes stays consistent. And you learn that, and you learn how they connect with each other, and it really sets you up to do some good stuff. So really quick, I want to talk about some of the points I wrote down right here. This is an important one. The C, the starting point of C. Why do we call it caged? Why don't we call it aged C or gedka? The reason why, I think, is just caged is an English word, and it's memorable. And that's, you know, in the world of memes and all that stuff, I'm sure we can know. It's like things that are memorable stick. And I think that's basically the reason. So C is not special. It's not better than A or G or D or any of these other chords. It just happens to be the starting point in this version. And the thing is, they repeat. After you go to D, it repeats back to C, and it just sort of is a cycle that never ends here, okay? I already talked about this. The shape names, they refer to the fingers you push down when you're playing the open version. And this is important because if I'm playing this chord, right? 5, 7, 7, 7, what's the name of this shape? Think about it. If you're playing this shape and you think about this shape move down over here, I'm just pushing down. It's like an A major chord. It's an A shape, okay? Root note right here, and then 3 notes in a row, okay? That's an A shape. So this is 799 is an E major chord, but this is using an A shape. This is 577. This is a D major chord, but it's using an A shape. You can play every single major chord using this shape. You just slide it up or down, and then whatever the root note is, this root note is a C. The 5th string 3rd fret is a C. That's the root note. That makes it a C major chord using an A shape. Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind. That's one thing that hung me up. I would always call this an F chord or call this a B flat shaped chord, just for general convention's sake. If you find myself or other teachers on the internet teaching this stuff, this is what they're going to use, I think, based on the prevalence of the CAGED chord system. These repeat in both directions, no matter which shape you start with. That's generally important too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you start. Things repeat in both directions, just like the 12 notes. I already talked about this. You can play all 12 major chords using each of these 5 shapes. That's totally true. If you gave me a chord like F sharp and you told me, hey David, play F sharp using a C shape. Well, I'd have to think about it, but I know that like this is an F sharp. This is an E shape, F sharp, okay? And give me time to think here. Well, I know that what comes after E is D. D comes after E, so I know that basically this root note right here is going to lead to this. So 6, 7, 6, that's an F sharp. And the cool thing is I know this D shape connects to this root note of the C. Okay, so this is an F sharp major chord played using the C shape, okay? Again, I would have to do the barring thing here if I wanted to do it technically true. Oh man, it gets hard. But anyway, that's the whole point, is you can take any major chord and you can play it with any of the 5 shapes. And they repeat in that order, okay? And then the shapes connect. This is an important one. And you're gonna notice when you play that there's certain things you can sort of pick up on. For example, I talked about this D shape, right? This triangle. Now, I have always known you can play, I know this is a D major chord using a D shape. This is a G major inversion, but this is basically a G major using a D shape. This is an A major chord using a D shape, okay? But the cool thing about this as I go from G to A is I know that this D shape connects to the C, like I talked about. I'm muting some strings here, but this is a G. This is an A. This is a G. This is an A. And you can sort of connect the dots. If I know 787 is a G, then I know that the 8th fret index finger is where my C shape G would go. And then I can sort of work and put my rest of my fingers there. So it might be a weird thing for me to explain here, but you can kind of get this idea that, hey, whenever I'm playing a chord, sometimes you're gonna just memorize which position comes next, and you can naturally use that when you're doing soloing or scales, or you want to use a different voicing of a certain chord. Okay, so and at the bottom of my diagram here, I have this little thing, and this is important just to show that as you're learning these shapes, they connect, right? Like this fret of the C shape, basically this fretting is the first fret of the A shape, right? And this last fret of the A shape is the first fret of the G shape. And this last fret of the G shape is the first fret of the E shape, okay? So that sort of gives you some little tricks there. And an example of this G shape is if I play an open G, because this fret right here is the first fret of this E shape, that means that the E shaped G is right here, same root note. This is the G shaped open G chord, and this is the E shaped G major chord. So they're both G major chords, but the shape changes. This is a G shape and this is an E shape, okay? But once you sort of realize they come one after another every time, it just makes it consistent and easy to play. So all things continue. I want to just explain this all to you, and hopefully it's helpful. Again, get this diagram over at my website, playsongnotes.com. Super handy, super helpful, I trust. And the next thing I'm working on to give you a glimpse of what's coming is the major scale positions and how they relate to the CAGED chord shapes. So you can take each of these different shapes and then you could play a major scale. And no matter what key you're in, the keys will change, right? Sometimes you're in the key of D or sometimes you're in the key of F sharp, whatever. But the shapes are consistent and then these major scale patterns are consistent. So again, once you learn this stuff once, a lot of these concepts will apply to every key, and that's really the joy of guitar is you open these doors at first and it seems like, man, there's so many chords, and then there's minor chords, and then there's like these weird numbers after some chords, and it can seem like it's just always branching out and getting more and more crazy. But if you can sort of realize that there's a lot of things that just repeat, there's just patterns that repeat. And once you learn that pattern once, it'll work for every different thing you play, right? And that really makes, again, it makes the world smaller in a good way. It lets you focus more on the creativity and the expression and everything. And there's a general saying I've sort of kept in mind as I've learned many songs over the last 20 years. It's almost like every technique you learn, every big technique, every song you learn, especially at first, it makes all future songs you learn easier, because you're not you're being introduced to concepts a lot at first, but once you learn the core concepts, as you learn more and more songs, you're like, oh, I've already learned this. This is just like that song, that's just like this song, and this strumming is like that song. Yeah, and it makes you sort of get momentum as you learn, and it makes the guitar playing journey something that gets easier to do, and you can sort of learn stuff faster. So it's a great part about sticking with it, right? And again, get this diagram, print it out, keep it around. You might relate or resonate with some of it now, but down the road you might look and be like, oh, now I'm getting it. Now I'm piecing things together, right? So I want to give you this map so that you can go out into the territory, look at the map, use it, and then as you get more and more familiar with your journey, your wander, and your exploration of things, and you refer back to the map, you're going to start to connect dots in a more efficient way as you go. So I've about said all there is to say about this. Again, this is a concept I'm sure I'll return to in different lessons for different reasons, but I wanted to give an intro to it in this video because I've never done one before, and I hope it's helpful. So thanks very much for y'all for watching. I really appreciate it. Those of you who are supporting me on Patreon, I really hope you enjoyed getting this in the inbox there. Those of you who want to get this, get it at my website, playsongnotes.com, and it's lesson 385, and then you'll find a link to get on over to the PDF and download it and print it out, keep it forever. So thank you all very much for watching. I'm going to head off now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.